Hey traders, welcome to the recap here for my Emini S&P 500 trading for Tuesday the 28th. And pretty solid day here, 5.5 points of profit. So that's 275 per contract. Trading one contract, 510. You can kind of work out the math on that, but pretty solid result. And we saw in the kind of the overnight, the pre-market, a pretty good run to the upside. And this blue line here is a pretty good trend line that was created from that run. So I missed the first move up here. Might have been able to latch onto it. Kind of hard to say. I mean, hindsight, it's all pretty clear, pretty obvious, but would have been a tricky trade to catch, but would have been trying to get long early on just with those flows we had been seeing and mostly everything going to the upside. But once we had pushed up here, had a really good opportunity to go long right off a clear level here. So nice pullback into that, an area where we can expect to see some buyers step in. I managed to hold this through for a solid 3 points. Wouldn't have been too much of a problem, taking a profit in here. There was still a solid profit available when it made a couple pushes. Wasn't really getting too far here. But with that level there, it's pretty easy to just tie a stop behind that and at least give it a chance to go. Could have been taken out here, and that would have been a little bit frustrating if it happened. But just with that type of move, thought it was worth hanging around for. Turned out could have gone quite a bit further. Would have been great if I could have caught this one here. It actually came right to where I tried to get my fill, right at this 0.25 area here, but I wasn't able to get it. And that's because I use limit orders with my trading. Sometimes I don't get the fill, but the advantage is that I know exactly what my price is going to be for my entry. I know what I'm targeting for my exits. And knowing that allows me to have a really nicely defined plan and real structure to my trading that a lot of typical trading usually lacks. When you're using market orders, you don't necessarily know what your price is going to be. You can get some slippage. You will get your fill, but you might not get it at a good area. And it makes it a lot more difficult, especially for newer traders, to have that sort of structure to their trading. And it makes trading a little bit more emotional too, because a lot of times you just hit that button in a panic because you're more afraid of missing out on a trade than anything else, causing you to get in at a bad location, causing you to often get taken out as price pulls back. When if you had traded off your levels, you probably would have been safe and been able to go through a little bit of that drawdown. But we continue to push up here. Was normally interested in a trade in here, but we had that news happening, so didn't want to take that risk right around the news. We did get a decent push up here where there could have been some profit, but not too worried about that. These high impact news events, I don't really want to step in front of those. They tend to give at least an attempt at continuation with the trend more often than not, but they can very quickly introduce volatility and jump around. So it's just not something I really want to take that risk of stepping in front of. But we got some really strong selling in here before a little bit of consolidation. This is one of the risk factors that we look at the SDA when we get these little micro consolidations here in terms of slightly deeper pullbacks and maybe not respecting some of the areas quite as well. So wasn't really surprised to see this one potentially fail. But I was looking for basically a few points on it. So worth taking that few ticks of risk, that 0.75 of a point to look for basically 3 points or so of profit. And then from there, once we had actually pulled back again, we started to create this channel. And we had a really good push down here. Was willing to give this a try, even though this was potentially the other side of that channel. Mostly I was concerned with this trend line up here. So until this started to really hold, it's hard to say for sure if it's going to be kind of a set in stone sort of level. And if we can break below this, and we often will, especially to the downside, if we can, we've got a long ways that we can potentially run on a break. So for me, a trade here looking for, again, 3 to 5 points is well worth that 1.25 points of risk. But then we came up into that, after that trend line is now broken, we had that structural break, and we had this new trend line to the downside. We had a couple areas coming together along with a level here. This is definitely a more of an advanced trade. These deeper moves within the kind of larger context of what the market's doing. A lot of times these come under deep level pullbacks for us, which is a more defined trade. But this is definitely a little bit more advanced here, trading off these levels as the momentum starts to slow. And so ran this one down. Now in hindsight, I probably should have hung on. I was initially looking for this trend line. When it started to really stall in here, took the profit that was available, got filled on that edge. If I hadn't have, probably would have been filled somewhere in here. in hindsight, I should have run this all the way down. I could have had an extra couple points, and probably should have had an extra couple points. But trading isn't necessarily about being perfect. It's about being profitable. And a lot of times, if you're always holding for that big home run trade, a lot of times you're going to give up some good profit on opportunities that just don't follow through. And so I'm happier if the market's really struggling, if it's not really following through the way I kind of expected to, I'm happy to take the profit that's available there. I don't let, like I said before, perfection get in the way of profitability. But we continued down here, had another good short, which was coming off a level here, as you can see. And just this time, again, I was actually looking for a break initially because there's the potential here that if this breaks, it could really go. But when it didn't and it wasn't following through, just took the profit. So wasn't going to make the mistake of letting things come back. I'd already seen this thing respond, fairly strongly in here once. Might respond strongly again. There was actually some good shorts that came a little bit later as well. But at that point, I was pretty happy with the day. It was fairly choppy here. You notice a lot of deeper pullbacks, a lot of chopping around. I wasn't too interested in that action with some good profit already banked. So I just called it a day, a little bit less than 2 hours of trading with the 5.5 points. So hopefully you guys had a great day as well. And looking forward to tomorrow and hopefully some solid opportunities in there too.